As far as Rashtriya Rifles is concerned, there is a story I'm very fond of telling, and I'm going to say this because it also tells you how deep is the understanding of leadership in the army, where everybody understands what true leadership is. And I can tell you, if there's only one lesson your listeners want to take away from today's podcast, that lesson is coming up in this story. So, 4th of June 1997, when I was commanding the battalion as a colonel, I had just become a colonel. We were, one of our convoys was going somewhere, and the terrorists had put a lot of explosives under the Kacha track. It is called improvised explosive device, and it is exploded from a distance using a remote control device. So, one of my vehicles got blown up. There was so much explosive that it went up above the eucalyptus trees, took 2 turns in the air, crashed against the ground, and instantly killed 1 major and 2 jawans. And 1 young lieutenant, Ravi Loganathan, and 2 jawans were trapped in that mangled steel. The crater was 8 feet deep. Now, my vehicle was about 10 minutes ahead. And when I heard the bang, I just met these officers in the morning. So when I heard the bang, everybody heard the bang. We turned around, and then people said, don't go in vehicles because there would be more IEDs probably en route. So we picked up our AK-47s and we were all running towards the site. We could hear firing. Terrorists were firing on that steel to kill the remaining people, to take away their weapons. And young Ravi Loganathan, who was half paralyzed, managed to wriggle out and was firing back. So as we were running, the officer running next to me looked at me and noticed that I was wearing red colored tabs on my collars. The senior army officers wear it, police officers wear a blue colored one. Now, these collar dogs or collar tags, they are not to be worn in battle. That's the rule. Because if you wear it, then of course the enemy will know who's the leader and they can be shot first. I had just become a CO and I think I was proud of wearing it. I was still wearing it. And the officer said, sir, please take it off. You will get shot and then there'll be a problem. And I said, yes, I will take it off. But immediately I did not, because my mind was grappling with what decisions I will make as we were going forward. After another about 100 steps, the guy on my left, who was a barber in the army, in full uniform of course, his name was Rooplal. He stopped me and said, can I talk to you? He said this in Hindi. Can I speak to you? I said, sure. He said, what the major just said was very right. You should not be wearing these. It's not even allowed, and there is no bravery in wearing these and going around. And he said, now you will get shot. And then we'll all be, there'll be chaos. His exact words were, अभी आपको कोई गोली मार देगा और फिर भगदड़ मच जाएगी. And he said, you should not be wearing it. And I said, yes, Rupla, I heard you and I'm going to take them off. He says, sir, that's not my advice. You should not have worn them at all. But now my advice is that even if you get killed, do not take them off today, because the troops are watching you. You are their leader. You have to set an example. You have to lead by example. We don't want anyone to think just because 2-3 people die, our commanding officer gets shaken. So you have to pretend not to be shaken. And my recommendation is, don't take these off for the next 3 months. Now, can you think of a more fantastic advice coming from the lowest rank in the army to his commanding officer? The youngest guy tells you, get killed if you have to, but set an example. Now, well, I didn't take them off, and in Ruplal's honor, I didn't take them off for 3 years, not 3 months. And people used to ask me, why are you wearing them? And I said, oh, my barbers advised me there is going to be a Muhurat and then we'll take it off. But the fact is, I was not going to take it off. Okay, the story is not about me. The story is about leadership and the understanding of it deep down. In the meanwhile, by the way, I saw a vehicle coming which had the mortal remains of the people who had died and the injured. I quickly looked into the vehicle. It was full of blood. And I told the driver, rush to the hospital. And then I realized that there was one person less, and that was young Lieutenant Ravi Loganathan. When I landed on the site, he was still there, almost fainted, and because of loss of blood and so on. So I quickly rushed into the hospital. And when he became all right, I asked him, why didn't you get evacuated? He said, because I was the senior most, and somebody should have reported the matter, and I wanted to give you all the details personally. So I stayed back. Now, here's a story. This is not a Paramveer Chakra story. Okay, nobody here was getting medals. Nobody got medals. This is a story of many, many young soldiers, young officers of the Indian Army, or what they do in battlefield. All right, because culturally there is a deep understanding of what loyalty really means and what leadership really means. And I will not go on and on with the story, but I would recommend that we talk about this one lesson again later in the podcast, because I want to talk to my corporate friends directly about this as to what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. I almost got goosebumps hearing that story, sir. Thank you for that. So, the next question I have for you is that life in the army and the battlefield, the environment is entirely different, right? And the civilian life that you are now leading is something entirely different. So, I know we are discussing today about lessons to learn from the battlefield. So, why do you think these lessons from the battlefield or army life are relevant in our civilian life? Can you elaborate on that fact?
Sure. A few years ago, I had gone to give a talk to IIM Ahmedabad, and at the end, a student got up and asked me this question. He said, how are you guys so different? You come from the same demographic as us, same homes, same middle class upbringing, same education, same parental anxieties, same financial problems. And here you are in the army, willing to die without there being a bonus at the end of the year. I hope you know that in the army there's no bonus at the end of the year. So, and you don't get extra money for getting killed or killing for that matter. Now, I have thrown this question back at the audience in many places. The answer I get is gratifying but always wrong. The answer people give is because you people are more patriotic, because you're more dedicated, because you're more selfless. Alright, first of all, I want to tell you, I never heard the word patriotism while I was in the army. Nobody talks about patriotism and Janda and Desh Bhakti. This conversation I heard on Twitter after I retired, and more in the movies. People are doing a particular job for a reason and they do it. The thing to be remembered is there is no difference in our backgrounds. So what has changed? What is this magic that army brings about? That magic is called culture. We are so transformed in the army that our mindset changes. So your listeners have to remember that unless they change their mindset, nothing in their life is going to change. Now the question comes, but great, you told us a great story, but how is it applicable to someone sitting in Asansol or Ranchi or wherever? The answer is this. Because we are the same people, civilians and army guys. There are certain central truths about leadership. There are certain central paradigms about leadership which are absolutely applicable outside. I have been a CEO of 2 companies. I've been an advisor to several. So I'm not telling you something which is all made up from the army. I've seen this in action. There is a lot you can do based on the principles that the army follows. Remember, I'm not saying copy the army. I'm not saying mirror the army. I'm not saying, well, that would be a nonsensical idea. Army has a different environment and corporate has a different environment. But the central truths are the same. For example, why is leading by example not applicable to the world in the corporate world? It is applicable. to build a team morale, making the team feel safe is important in the army. It is important in the corporate sector. It is just that we don't wish to learn those lessons. So the lessons are common. We need to apply them intelligently through the settings which we are referring to.